We have changed the way that we administer consumable items. You will see in your character sheet that you no longer have big tags for consumable items. This has now been replaced by a single sheet. On this sheet, all of your consumable items are listed. What you need to do is when you receive an item, you indicate that you have gained an item. When you lose an item, sell it or use it, you mark it as lost. If you find an item that is currently not on the consumable sheet, add it at the bottom and indicate how many of them you have gained.
The body contact rule. Teana prohibits all body contact during combat. All combat must take place with Nero-approved safe weapons or packets, and certain parts of the body, the head, the groin, and the hands, are not allowed to be hit, even with these Nero-safe weapons. This rule does not apply to packet-delivered attacks, which may hit any part of the body, though you should try to avoid hitting the head or the groin. You need permission to physically touch another player with any part of your body outside of combat. In combat, all touch is forbidden. The hold rule. If you hear someone yell hold, stop everything you are doing and drop to one knee. Hold should only be called if there is a real need, and usually for safety reasons. You cannot call a hold to check a rule or ask if someone knows that you hit them with a spell or ability, unless that rule or effect is so integral to the situation that it would affect every person involved in the situation. You may not approach a group that is in a hold. If you see a bunch of people down on one knee, stay away from them. In addition, holds may be called by plot. During a hold, you stay stationary. The only exception is standing up to collect arrow or spell packets. The sneaking rule. If you wish to sneak into a building or tent, regardless of whether you are sleeping in that building or tent for the event, you must have a marshal present. This rule helps to ensure that out-of-game items, the personal property of players, are not accidentally taken if your character chooses to steal in-game items from another player's building or tent. The rules marshal will also ensure that you disarm all traps properly, pick locks, and that you are aware of any formal magic or magical protections on the building. The alcohol rule. No alcohol or recreational drugs are allowed at a Teana event. Please still take your medically prescribed drugs. Calling damage and defenses. Call your damage for your first 3 hits during a combat. Thereafter, only call damage if your damage changes. Calling defenses takes priority over calling damage. If you do not call a defense within 3 seconds of the applicable attack hitting you, the defense does not take effect, you lose the defense, and you take the applicable damage or effect. The clean hit. Blocked and deflected shots do not count. If the attacking weapon or arrow packet made any contact with a shield or weapon, the hit does not count and the person takes no hit, even if the hit continued through the block and made contact with any player. This does not apply to spell or alchemy packets. If a spell or alchemy packet makes any contact whatsoever, including making contact with a cloak or other piece of clothing, the spell or alchemy attack takes effect on the person hit. death and dying. If you ever drop to exactly 0 body points, you are unconscious for 1 minute. After 1 minute, you are conscious again on 1 body point. If you drop to any number below 0, you are considered to be at -1 and you are bleeding out. For 1 minute, first aid, any healing spell, and the alchemical potion Cure Light Wounds will immediately put you back into the conscious state and will put you on body points that the spell or the potion gives -1. You can also be saved during this 1 minute death count by the skill First Aid. The first aid skill takes 1 minute to apply. While the person is applying first aid to you, you stop your dying count. Your first aid count can be interrupted. If the first aid count is interrupted, you immediately resume your death count where you stopped when the first aid started. If you get all the way to 60, you are dead. You have 5 minutes during which you lie there and count down the 5 minutes. When the 5 minutes are up, your body dissipates and you need to seek resurrection at the nearest resurrection circle. During the 5 minutes that you are dead on the ground, you can be saved by a life spell on 1 body point. If you need to seek resurrection, find the resurrection circle, find out who's invested in them, and go and bug one of them until they come and resurrect you. You remember everything up to the point of your death. You do not remember time spent as a spirit if you resurrect successfully. If you have black balls in your death bag, you will have to put your hand in the death bag and reach for a ball. If you draw a white ball, you resurrect successfully. If you draw a black ball, you are perma-dead. Sorry, draw up a new character. If you hear a strange damage type, like for instance, 5 fire, okay? It means that the weapon's doing 5 normal damage, but it's also doing fire damage. You can also hear a call like 5 magic, in which case the damage that the weapon's doing is magical. These things apply to monster defenses. If you hear a packet call that says something like 5 elemental fire, that packet is doing elemental damage, not magic. If the packet is preceded by a spell verbal, for instance, I call forth the dragon's breath 40, then it is doing 40 magical damage. If you hear somebody call something like cause damage, gas, poison, it means that they are throwing an alchemical packet, a green packet. This packet affects you with whatever part of you it touches, including clothing. It must miss you completely and cannot be blocked. The same applies to spells, but not to arrows. If a sword is, for instance, causing poison damage, it affects you once it has gone through your armor. If you're a spellcaster and you're casting a spell and somebody hits you with a weapon, if they do body damage, your spell is interrupted and fizzles. There is no effect except that you lose the spell slot.